Number 98, the member has 12 minutes for his presentation. The member for Etobicoke North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a privilege to present the Ontario Vital Stats Resolution, as I have just cited. And, Monsieur le Président, cette résolution est basée sur des principes fondamentaux. Par exemple, les docteurs estiment qu'entre 10 à 40% des conditions médicales majeures restent non diagnostiquées pendant longtemps. Par exemple, les diabétiques au Canada ont cette maladie en moyenne 5 ans avant qu'elle ne soit diagnostiquée. Mr. Speaker, this particular resolution with reference to Ontario vital statistics is based, of course, I hope, on sound medical and scientific principles. For example, doctors estimate that about 10 to 40% of major medical conditions remain undiagnosed for too long. For example, Speaker, people with diabetes in Canada have the disease on average for 5 years before it is actually diagnosed. Similarly, approximately 5 million Canadians have high blood pressure, but only about 45% of them have actually officially been diagnosed. As a general principle, as you'll appreciate, early diagnosis leads to earlier cure, faster resolution, and of course, better outcomes for patients. But Ontarians are not benefiting as much as they should from these particular principles of early awareness and early intervention. I'm also pleased to report to this chamber that I will be joined today in the debate from the government side by my honourable colleagues, the MPP Couillard from Brampton-Gore-Malton, MPP Ramal from London Fanshawe, and MPP McMeekin from Ancaster, Dundas, Flamborough, and Westdale. I'd also like to introduce, not only to you, perhaps, Speaker, but also to Ontarians, a term that is gaining currency within medical circles, and that is known now as the cardiometabolic risk. I think it's important for all Ontarians to understand, and patients and physicians to engage in this particular conversation, to understand what we as physicians are increasingly referring to as the cardiometabolic syndrome. And that is this, Speaker. We are learning that many illnesses and conditions are not isolated, not just one of single problems. Instead, many conditions, for example, such as obesity and high blood pressure and stress, actually aggravate, provoke, and accentuate each other. This grouping, this cluster of conditions which act and worsen each other is what we call the cardiometabolic syndrome. And to appreciate what I'm saying, Speaker, is that I think for too long, conventional Western medicine, not really engaging in the holistic approach, has been chasing either, for example, blood pressure, or either sugar, or either stress, or either insomnia, or either increased heart rates as isolated, independent conditions. But we as physicians are learning that that is not the optimal approach, that we must approach this as an overall package deal, if you were, Speaker, as it were, as what we call now the cardiometabolic syndrome. Now, why is this important? As I say, it's a package, and patients who have this particular syndrome are at much higher risk for many, many serious conditions. And as you'll appreciate, the proportion of Ontarians, indeed Canadians, and by the way, particularly Americans, is increasing in this area for many, many different reasons. Sedentary lifestyles, excessive screen time, the outbreak of obesity right from very early ages, and many other aspects. This, Speaker, puts people at much higher risk for things like heart attacks, strokes, complications of diabetes, and of course even sudden cardiac death. We must try to address all aspects of CMS, as the official abbreviation is, or the cardiometabolic syndrome, because of course, as you know, any resolution and any medical terminology must have a self-respecting acronym, so CMS is the one that we put forward. It's not enough, for example, Speaker, to chase only high blood pressure or to chase only high sugar levels. We must instead try to offer solutions and medications that offer a global benefit, a holistic benefit to the whole person. And that may involve, Speaker, as it should, much more than simply prescribing medications, be they generic or brand name, but engaging not only the patient, educating them about the entire lifestyle, even engaging perhaps the entire family and maybe the spouse, and perhaps even society at large. And I think all of us in our various spheres of influence need to bring best practices to bear in this area. Otherwise, Speaker, the benefit of treating only one condition at a time may in fact be nullified, cancelled out, or diminished as another condition is allowed to get worse. For example, the list of conditions that mutually reinforce each other is always literally and figuratively expanding. It includes obesity. Fat in the abdomen, Speaker, is dangerous. It acts, and this is probably relatively new information even for physicians out there, it acts like an independent endocrine organ that makes chemicals that accelerate many problems. This is, in fact, Speaker, what I like to refer to as I'm explaining it to patients or other physicians in presentations, the cardiometabolic soup, the collection of chemicals that abdominal fat pours out that worsens and accelerates and triggers things like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, sugar diabetes, and so on. Remember, abdominal fat is metabolically, chemically active and dangerous.